All right, today we are diving into a huge shakeup. And honestly, this affects just about every single person working in cybersecurity. We're talking about the National Vulnerability Database, the NVD. The bedrock of how a lot of us do vulnerability management. Well, it's going through a massive change, and we need to break down what exactly that means for all of us.
So it all boils down to this one really big question. Is the NVD, literally the world's most critical vulnerability database, is it actually at a breaking point? It's a scary thought, right?
Well, all the signs are pointing to yes. The U.S. National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, the folks who run the database, they've basically come out and said they're making a radical change to how they do things. Why? Because they've admitted the whole system is just under way too much pressure. So let's really get into it. What exactly is going on here? Why is this system, a cornerstone of our entire cyber infrastructure, why is it suddenly under so much strain? Okay, so first, just a quick refresher for everyone. The NVD isn't just some giant list of security bugs, right? Its most important job, the thing we all rely on, is to enrich those raw vulnerability reports we call CVEs. So they're the ones adding that crucial context, the severity scores, what products are affected, all the stuff that turns a simple report into something we can actually use to defend our networks. But here's the rub, and it comes straight from NIST computer scientist Harold Booth. He said, and I quote, "CVE reporting keeps increasing, and our ability to keep up is just not there." Wow, that is a pretty blunt admission that the system is just completely overwhelmed.
And where is all this pressure coming from? Well, it's pretty simple. It's a massive, unstoppable flood of new vulnerability reports. It's just become impossible to handle things the old way.
And I'm not kidding when I say flood. Just look at this number. In the last 5 years alone, CVE submissions have shot up by a staggering 263%. Think about that. This isn't just a small uptick. It's a full-blown explosion of reported flaws. And to be fair, the NVD team has been working like crazy. Last year, they enriched a record-breaking 42,000 CVEs. That's 45% more than they've ever done before. But even with that heroic effort, it just wasn't enough to keep their heads above water. And you can see it plain as day on this chart from NIST. The number of CVE submissions is just on this relentless upward trajectory, and honestly, there's no end in sight. And as you can see, the projections for the next year, well, they're even steeper. And it's not just growing, it's accelerating. Just the first quarter of this year saw submissions jump by nearly a third compared to the same time last year. Experts are now forecasting we could be looking at anywhere from 50,000 to maybe even over 70,000 new CVEs by the end of the year. It's insane. And if you think that's wild, get this. The next wave is AI. New AI models are being built specifically to find security flaws automatically. And you can bet that's going to pour a whole lot more fuel on this fire, probably increasing the number of reports, well, dramatically. So, you can see the writing on the wall. Faced with this absolute deluge, NIST had to do something. So let's take a look at their new playbook, how they plan to triage and manage this flood from now on. Basically, they're shifting to a risk-based triage system. It makes a lot of sense. From now on, NVD analysts are going to focus their energy on 3 priority buckets. First up, and this is the big one, vulnerabilities that are already being actively exploited out in the wild, the stuff in CISA's KEV catalog. Number 2, CVEs in software that the U.S. federal government uses. And third, CVEs that affect what's defined as critical software under a recent presidential executive order. And what about everything else? This slide right here is so important. The old status deferred is gone. Now it's not scheduled. And let me be clear, this is not just a simple name change. This means if a vulnerability doesn't hit those new priority criteria, it's not in a line waiting to be looked at. It is, for all intents and purposes, completely off the schedule for enrichment by NIST. There are a couple of other important changes too. The NVD won't be providing its own CVSS severity score if the company that submitted the flaw already provided one. It's just cutting out duplicate work, and they'll only go back and reanalyze a modified CVE if the changes are really significant. It's all about putting their limited resources where they'll have the biggest impact. Okay, so we've got the problem, we've got the new playbook, but what does this all actually mean for those of us on the front lines, for the cyber defenders? What is the real-world impact here? Yeah, the first question that popped into probably everyone's head is, What on earth happens to that massive backlog? The tens of thousands of vulnerabilities that were just sitting there waiting for analysis. And here it is, the direct and pretty stunning answer. Every single unenriched CVE that was published before March 1st of this year has now been moved into that not scheduled category. So that old backlog, it's been effectively wiped clean. Not because they finished it, but by basically declaring it out of scope.
So, this is the new reality, folks. For every security team out there, the big takeaway is this. You absolutely cannot rely solely on the NVD for enriched data anymore. It is officially time to diversify your threat intelligence sources.
And this slide gives you a pretty good idea of what that new toolkit needs to look like. You have to start pulling your threat intel from multiple feeds. That means going straight to the source at CVE.org, keeping a close eye on CISA's KEV catalog, definitely monitoring vendor advisories directly, and using fantastic open source databases like osv.dev. The game has really changed. It's no longer a one-stop shop, it's a multi-source strategy.
Which leaves us with this final, and I think really critical question. The same AI that is kind of breaking the old system is also the tool that could help us find and fix these things faster than ever before. So as AI keeps accelerating vulnerability discovery, what does the future of vulnerability management actually look like? That right there is the challenge, and maybe the opportunity for our entire community.